Alright, another fun week working on Jimmy's car. So this week we've been playing around with some carbon, doing the dash again. If you guys are following us on Facebook, you would have seen a couple of little sneak peeks, but yeah, you'll get to see it all unfold here. Do just a little bit of work around cleaning up the Rexy, bit of therapy that went overboard. So anyway, been a good fun week. Hope you guys all enjoy it. I am still doing the card video. That's going to be a bit of a throw in the mix one. They take a long time to edit and make it all kind of flow and feel nice. So keep your eyes peeled. I'll chuck that up on our Facebook when we get that happening, and you guys will all see it on here. So have a good one. Yeah, alright, we're back. This week, hopefully we'll be playing around with some carbon. Let's see what we can get done. So, I want to make a dash. So we've got the old dash out of Jimmy's Pulsar just here. Main reason I've kept that is just for this kind of back contour. We know it matches the windscreen nicely, so why not use that if we've got it. So what we've got is this is just a 2400 by 1200 sheet of alley. We've got it folded up, so we've got 200mm and then 100. I'm only planning on rolling carbon into probably the last 20mm, just so that this edge isn't all wavy, and that'll just give it a little bit of stiffness. So yeah, so I got them to fold it with a bit of overhang there. That's obviously for our bag, and then a bit of vacuum line. So I'm going to try to do this a bit differently to how I did the door card. As we saw, that didn't really work out. It didn't travel through the part quick enough. It was a bit too big for what we had. So what I'm going to try with this one is I'm probably going to have two ports here for vacuum to connect up to. And then I've got some spiral. So I'll probably run spiral the full width here so that the resin can come in, go through the spiral, and then travel through the whole part, and hopefully we'll be able to get it in one go. The reason why I'm going to run in that direction is because I figure that the air is always going to go to your highest point, which is going to be here. So we should get a nice amount of resin through this part and then the front, and then as it goes up, the air will want to rise out. So watching kind of AJ Hartman's videos, he always sets his parts up, like his bonnets or whatever he's making, he'll always set it up at like a 45 degree and then run the resin up for exactly that reason. So now one of the things I learnt from the door card was we'd polished up where we wanted the door card. We went over and we did a fairly good wax release, and all this is released pretty well, but all of this hasn't. Like, there's a real hard line here where the bag obviously got a bit of a crinkle in it, as it does. You can get it off. It does scrape off without too much drama, but I don't really feel like having to do this again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time. I'm going to go through, I've got the gear out, we'll give it all a polish so we can get rid of any of these like little marks that are in it, which there was a line through that stainless sheet that we spoke about that I wasn't too sure how it would go. Can't see it, so happy with that. Give this a polish up so it's nice and smooth, nice and shiny. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down the bagging tape around the perimeter, and instead of just waxing where the part's going to be, I'm going to wax all the way to my bagging tape perimeter. And what my hope is that then will mean, like, I wouldn't, you can see the mark where the tape was, I wouldn't have had release all the way out here. I'm pretty confident I just did in the middle here. So we'll get onto that. I'll give it a polish, probably chuck you guys on a time lapse, polish it up, then lay down the bagging tape, and then we can wax up to the bagging tape. So we'll kick on. So we've given it all a polish. Pretty happy with how it's come up. Before I folded it, I actually already gave probably, I think it was about 400 mil of this a polish. So I've already polished that before we folded it because I knew I'd struggle now. But just gave the top a clean up. Kind of only really more so worried about this surface because it's what you're going to see for the most part. The front section, yes, it's the face, but it ends up having keypads and dashes and all that mounted to it. So as long as the nice big flat section's glossy, I'm pretty happy. So you saw I put the dash on there. The dash was sitting off. So we're gonna have a piece of bagging film about 1 meter by 1500. That's these lines. Then we'll use a piece of carbon about 850 by 1400 wide. So what that there, working that out, I can work that out into square meterage, then weights and all of that, and that means then I'll be able to work out what resin we'll need. The other thing that I'm going to do this time is I'm going to use Soric. So it's like a 2mm thick honeycomb. You'll see it soon, but it's a nice lightweight of stiffening, lightweight way of stiffening up a panel. So being that it's going to be a big flat panel, if I can put that in it, it'll probably stop it from twisting or buckling or doing any kind of weird stuff. So what I think will be next is I'll probably run some tape around the perimeter, run it up along all the flats and that, and then we'll start waxing. So. Alright, gum tape's on. Not too happy with this corner. You'll see that I did that side a bit differently. This here I just ran one piece, but in the corners it's obviously been just under a little bit of tension and it's pulled. So on this side, what I did was I just did 3 individual pieces, ran it into the corner, and then I was able to get the one that comes on top to double over it, so the corner's just got a bit of extra gum tape there. I don't think it'll be too much of a drama. I may just stick a section in that corner just to pad it out, give it a bit more so it doesn't matter if it stretches. It'll still have plenty to go. So we'll get on again our mould release. We'll start giving that the old wax on, wax off. I just found it before. This is the spiral tube that I was talking about. It's basically we'll run resin through it, and then the resin can come out of all these little gaps. So it just means that you get a lot faster resin going through the part. So, all right, we'll keep going. All right, day 2. So we did about 5 wax coats yesterday, and then going by the instructions, it says for the best kind of results, do a wax coat, leave it for 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours, I think it said, overnight, and then put another coat on just before you want to use it. So it's been overnight. I'll probably throw another wax coat on now, leave it for a bit, buff it off, and then we'll get into laying up the part. I've actually started cutting up some of the material. I don't know if you can see it sitting up there on the wing. So we've started cutting up probably the first layer of carbon and then the Soric. So what I was saying before is it's like a honeycomb texture. So this here, in between all of these honeycombs, it takes in resin, but through that white section there, it won't absorb any resin. So for something that's 2 mil in thickness, it doesn't take up a whole lot of resin. So you get the extra kind of thickness of the composite without the additional weight or cost of carbon. So obviously 200 grams of carbon is about 0.2 of a mil in thickness. So we'd need like 10 layers of 200 gram carbon to make up the same thickness as that. And I can tell you now, that is a whole lot cheaper. So anyway, we'll give another wax up. I haven't bothered filming all of them. We did the first couple, and then I don't think you guys need to see a bit of wax on, wax off. So we'll do the last one and then we'll start the layup. Alright, so a bit of our cloth is cut. We've got our 2 main pieces, our Soric, got a couple of little bits here that may end up getting used just as a bit of a stiffener along the front edge. Just starting to get some of our hoses ready and run, so we've got that. That'll run then along this whole edge. Our suction side, I've got a T-piece there. I'm going to get one probably sucking from about here and there. My goal is that way then, if it comes to it, we can block off one side or the other. I've noticed that resin will kind of run diagonally, and I think it's got to do with the flow mesh and the way that's pleated. It kind of, will always seem to run one way better than the other. But we'll have a look. That just gives me the option to block one side off if one side gets close to the resin port. Other than that, it's going all good. I'll just see how we go in that corner, like I was kind of a bit worried about before. We'll chuck some more gum tape around the hoses and set the hoses in place. That shouldn't move. That one's pretty sturdy there, so once that's gum taped, that'll be good. Get that one gum taped in both sides. The other thing we're going to have to use that we didn't use last time, so I've never used this before, is Aerofix. So this is for like a vinyl ester, epoxy, polyester resins. So the idea of this, I believe, is that we can spray it on, give it a light coat, and it's like a tacky kind of glue, and that'll allow us to roll that carbon up into the corner and then have that overhang on top. So we'll keep going. It's actually all going fairly smoothly, so let's not jinx ourselves. I will chuck a couple of pleats around here just so we've got a bit of extra bagging material. So yes, I'm just cautious because our full width is 1400 here, and I'm pretty sure my vacuum bag is 1500, so we don't have a whole lot of extra to play with on the length side of things, but I don't think that should be an issue. Anyway, get into it. Alright, first layer done. Pretty happy with it. The main thing I wanted to make sure of, which you would have seen, is that we got that corner in there tucked in nice and straight. I didn't want it to have like a wavy weave, so that's looks pretty good. I don't know if it'll come up on camera, but that spray tack kind of glue is way stickier than I was expecting, so you kind of don't really get a whole lot of positioning with it. It's just once you put it in place, it's there. So what I think I'll do is I'll grab this narrower section here. I reckon I'm going to run one of them just in the front, a bit along here and up the face, so that we've got plenty of thickness to mount dashes, switch panels, all of that kind of jazz on. The weave did get a little bit wavy out the back here, just where it's kind of puckered and twisted a little bit just with that spray tack. So from here it does look pretty good. The weave looks pretty straight. It's just towards the end where it's gone a bit funny, so pretty stoked with that. That should come up all right. But we'll yeah, get the next piece in, then I'll try and get the Sorek on, and then we'll go for one more sheet of carbon at the end. Should be good. So we've got peel ply, our infusion mesh, we've got our spiral tube for our resin in, we've got our two vacuum ports. I've just taped up the T-piece a little bit, so we're just pulling on them more than I would have liked. This here, when we start pulling vacuum down, it'll pull all this tight. I'll just have to go through, pull a little bit of vacuum down slowly, and then just increase it. We've got our bag cut just sitting there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video. So yeah, other than that, just going through, just clean up any little fibres and dangly bits that might end up covering over the gum tape, might cause an air leak. Go through Just push all this stuff back in. I may end up putting a bit more gum tape around it just to fill those edges up, because it's a bit hit and miss. Might pull a bit of tension on the bag, so see how we go. I do think I'm going to chuck a pleat probably around maybe here on both sides, just to give us a bit of room to move in the corner. I'm not sure what I'll do, whether I might put one here, maybe a little one here and here. Just that way then we've got that just bit of extra room on the bag. Either way, I'll cut the bag oversized, so we should have a bit of overhang, which will be nice. I'm undecided if I start. I think I might start from the resin end and then push the bag in, and whatever we've got left over at the top there we've got. Because I think trying to get it all to stick up there is going to be a bit difficult, but suck it and see. Alright, so we've got our vacuum bag on. Had a couple of little leaks, but sorted them. So now we're just doing a leak down check on it. All sounds pretty good, I can't hear anything. Also just done a bit of working out here, what we had. So we had 2 pieces of carbon that I'd cut at 1200, so 3.6, and at 200 grams a square metre we need 670 grams of resin. The Soric that we used, that takes up a kilo per square metre, so 0.85 a square metre, 850 grams. The Infusion mesh, peel ply and all that, takes up 700 grams a square metre. So I've just used roughly the same, 3.36, so we're going to need 2.35 kilos, so all up 3.9. So I'm probably going to make 4 kilos, but I reckon I'll probably do it in 2 batches. I reckon I might do just two kilo batches, mix up the first, put the hardener in it, let it flow through, then we'll make up the second one and just have it on standby for when the pot's nearly empty and we can just tip it in. That way then we don't have all that thermal mass and it go bad like it did last time for us. So anyway, the vacuum seems to be holding pretty well. That hasn't really moved, so happy days there. This time I am going to try using a bit less vacuum. So the last time that panel that we made for the door turned out fairly kind of matte. And that was because we locked off the resin and just kept pulling vacuum on it. This time I'm actually going to probably stop the vacuum, let a little bit of extra resin run in. Hopefully that way it might have just a bit more resin, be a little bit shinier. We'll see what happens. Anyway, keep going. stoked. We've run our resin through. That spiral at the start of that time lapse, you would have seen that went really quick. So that's, yeah, been awesome. Just keeping an eye on this pot of resin. I have got another kilo sitting over there ready for catalyst, but it's looking like we might get away without it. Looking up here, you can actually see on the return we're coming back in kind of 15-20 mil, and to be honest, I'm not too fussed how far that comes in. We do seem to have a little bit of a resin pocket sitting in this corner, but at the end of the day, that there out in the corner here is probably going to get trimmed off. I did get it into the corners fairly well, I thought, but a tight 90 degree like that's hard. Everything I've kind of have been watching, that's the worst thing you can do. I have actually made that the folds at 80 degrees, so it is a little bit under. Main reason for that is so we could get it out without it kind of locking itself in. But see how we go. It's definitely looking, we've got resin up the full face of it. So now it's just going to be a matter of keeping an eye on how far that resin gets up into here. So it's starting to get back a bit, so probably won't be too far off, maybe even just stopping the vacuum pump, let it draw the last bit of resin in. I think we'll be bang on there. That's still got resin sitting in that pot in this tube, so let it draw a bit of excess resin up and we might get a bit of a nicer finish than we did on the door card, but so there we go. So run it down. What I've done is I turned off the vacuum pump and then have let it run down to that -10, and now I've actually clamped the resin in line, so it's just going to sit at that -10. So my hope is last time we pulled it right down to all of the vacuum and then there was minimal resin in it. It was a lightweight part, but it also meant that then we didn't have a whole lot of resin, which was why it wasn't overly shiny. This time now, with it not having full vacuum, hopefully it might keep a bit more resin in and it might get a bit shinier. But I was thinking before, it seemed a bit odd. We'd put 2.7 kilo of resin in. We still had 1.3 to go, which is what I had basically waiting, and we were done. I was just looking at it before thinking, I stuffed up this because I took that 700 grams off of the 3.36 square meters, whereas we've only got half of that because that was 2 sheets. Funnily enough, it actually works out to 2.696 is what we needed, and I mixed up 2.7 in the end and had a little bit left over. So I'd say that 700 grams that we've got there is pretty accurate for our infusion mesh and just a bit of consumable waste. So pretty happy with that. So yeah, we'll let this cure for a little while. Hopefully tonight, it is early enough that tonight I may end up being able to peel the bagging off, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, it's going to be time to give a couple of the cars a wash. The plan today was to give the car a wash, and yeah, that escalated pretty quickly. I've been wanting to give this thing a good clean for a while, so we go to clean up with the Mr. Black, or whatever it's called, black box. Done all the black trims, around all the mirrors, get all faded and underneath the windscreen, so that looks heaps nicer. Polished the windscreen. One little trick, you'll notice underneath your windscreen down kind of here where it doesn't get wiped with the wiper blades, you get this kind of chalky look. I reckon there's a bit on the back. Oh, this kind of, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it just looks a bit, ugh. You can actually just use a normal polish. I use just the compound that I use when I'm doing the moulds, and cleans it up wicked, comes up really nice. So done that, ended up taking the wheels off in the end and gave all the barrels and in behind the spokes are clean. And then I've been wanting the roof doors and the back got waxed a little while ago, so I wanted to wax the front, so pulled it up in the shade. We've got the Bowden's butte beads, that stuff seems to work pretty well, so waxed that. Nice. In the meantime, this is set, it's all nice and hard, so might end up trying to pull that off tonight. Pull all the film off, see if it worked a bit better, waxing it all the way out to the edges. Hopefully I can see like a bit of resin through here. Hopefully that resin comes off a bit easier than it did on the stainless panel. And then I've actually got to lay up just a couple of flat sheets for a couple of sports sedan guys, so we'll get that done and should be good. Anyway, alright, car's clean. Night time now. I reckon we're ready to pull everything off of this mould. Let's see how this dash turned out. All looks pretty good. We've got resin all the way through. There's a couple of little spots on the edge that are a little bit dry, but see how we go. The fun part. Alright, that's a massive win. That's come out awesome. Unlike the door card, we've got like a nice, oh you can see the light, nice glossy finish on it. Nice, crisp, stiff corner, which is what I didn't want it to kind of lose that shape. The one bad part, I don't know if you can see it on camera, is there's a bit of print through from the Soric. So that's going to be something that I'll have to try and sort out. I might have a watch back over a couple of AJ's videos. I think what he does is I think he has 2 or 3 layers, or probably at least 2 layers and then the Soric. But hey, look, we'll learn. A bit of print through is not the worst thing in the world. I'm sure on the sides here you probably won't notice it, because I dare say it'll get trimmed within those print through lines, and depending on how long we make the dash, there's carbon, who cares. The other nice part is, so obviously the fact that I didn't pull that full vacuum down on it towards the end, we do have a lot glossier finish, which is nice. Put that aside, and the other nice part is it's all shiny now, I've got to keep it shiny. Is doing what we did right up to the edge has meant that any of this stuff that is stuck on comes off super easy. So I think I might do the waxing like I did this time in future. That seems to have worked pretty well. Clean that up. This bit that's left on here, I wouldn't be surprised if a bit of acetone or something cleans that off. So all up. So with everything removed, that dash there weighs 2.2 kilos. Just as a comparison, to make it out of 2mm alley, you'd be talking about 9 kilos. So considering my dash, I've done all out of 2mm and then covered it, and that's a fair bit bigger than Jimmy's. There's probably 10 kilos of alley there, which never seemed like much, but now we have the ability to make something out of carbon a whole lot lighter. I'd be pretty keen to make a new dash for my car, and it begins. Anyway, I reckon we might round out this week's video there. I'll probably end up going and picking Jimmy's car up, bringing it back here. Now that I've got a dash, I can start trying to mount that up, trim it out and get it mounted, and that means then I can keep going with wiring, getting button pads and start buttons and all of that mounted up. We can bolt the seat in, fuel cells obviously all bolted in, finish the fuel lines. I think Ample's getting pretty close. I think last time I spoke to Doug and Wade, Jimmy's motor was about 2 engines away from being built. So yeah, we're getting there. CAD videos coming. I might end up doing that just as an ad hoc one that I might throw in. We'll see how we go. It's definitely taken a lot longer to do, but I've found a way of filming it that I don't mind. That seems to be working a bit better and flows a lot nicer. So anyway, cheers for hanging around this week, and hope you enjoyed. Bye. So I wasn't actually planning on doing any more of this video this week, but as it happens, the weather's pretty average and I'm in the garage, so why not? We've got Jimmy's car back home, and I'm back on my favourite thing, cardboard design. So with the dash made up, I want to now make up a template so that we can start getting the dash fitment on point. So we've got that trimmed out. Obviously there's not much you can do about the gaps on the side there, but try and make it as nice and tight fitting as possible. So what I'm going to do is, now that we've got that trimmed and I'm pretty happy with the fitment of that, I've got some points marked out on the front edge there of what my leading edge is going to be. So I've got all my offsets. What I'll do now is I'll probably throw a bit of tape over these kind of little spots, so that way then I can make sure I'm getting as tight to the tube as possible, and not just having a big gap. Like that's not too bad, but we can get it a little bit nicer, so we'll see how we go. Anyway. Well, I haven't taken you on the whole journey, but initially those cardboard template got traced on, and it just made it to the point where it was so hard to get the dash into the car. It was ridiculous. You couldn't for the life of you get the dash in. So we've ended up having to make it a bit wider, which does mean that in between the A-pillar and the Sains bar, there is a gap, but I think once the windscreen's in, we've got a bit of a covering across here. You're barely going to see it, and from in the car you can hardly see it, but it's come out pretty awesome. I'm pretty stoked with it. Don't know how well you guys can see it in the video. It looks a bit dark, but it's awesome, proper awesome. So that's another little win. It's starting to become a nice looking office in there. But yeah, there was probably, I'd say nearly 6 hours of just file finishing, trimming bits off like that the whole way through, just trying to get it to fit nicely. I didn't want to take out big chunks and have big holes and big gaps everywhere, but we got there in the end. Let's do it for me. nice carbon. So we've got obviously all of the fuel systems all mounted up. Tank, we've just got my old steering wheel on there temporarily. So now I can actually start putting all of the buttons and switches and everything on to the dash. So it does still need some finishing. Over there I've just got it held up with some tape just to get the level right, so when the doors are shut it sits nice and level across the two doors, so it's not doing anything kind of funky there, which I think always looks nice. It's not sitting above the window line. I think the dash, I think we've got a AEM dash. I do think that's going to sit a little bit higher, but I might just end up 3D printing like a nice surround kind of cover for that, which will tie that in and make that look nice. But yeah, other than that, it's been a fun week, so hope you guys have all enjoyed. Cheers.